Well, that's about as close to the mic as I can get. Can you all hear me? Well, good morning, everyone. Sangha here in person and those online. Thank you for being with us today. And I do want to thank MBT for asking me back to do this Dharma message again, which I did about a year and a half ago when Reverend Todd asked me to do a Dharma message, and it turned into the one I'm going to give you again today, which has to do with finding the Dharma in portraying the character of Santa Claus, which I've been doing for the last 3 years. Yes, I finally hung that red suit up about, 3 or 4 days ago, and hooray for that. But you know, it is raining today, so thank you all that are here for braving this weather. But 2 happy things to think about because of that rain. Number 1, it could be snow. And number 2, we're a week after solstice. The days are getting longer. Yeah, Ginza is almost here. So at any rate, everyone, let me give you as to how all of a sudden a talk about Santa Claus ends up in a Shin Buddhist temple. So first off, I began coming to MBT many, many years ago, and I make my living still as a tour guide. I work with Chicago Fireboat Tours downtown, and we kick those tours up again in March, so that'll be happening. But I also work as a musician, a puppeteer, a costumed interpreter at many sites around the country. So I've been many other people in my life, and happily I'm still not schizophrenic. So this is great. And yes, I admit it, I was a Ringling Brothers circus clown back in the 80s, right? And if you ever wondered, are all those clowns in that car? Yes. 20 clowns in a Datsun B210. Ask me about it later. We can talk. Okay. But at any rate, none of those acting or teaching positions I had anything to do with Santa Claus. And I would have to say, in 100,000 kalpas, did I ever think I would find a Dharma practice and a meet a Buddha in the embodiment of Santa. So, there's an old phrase, one often meets their destiny on the road they take to avoid it. How many people have experienced that? And that was first spoken by Jean de La Fontaine. He was a 17th century French poet, politician, and essayist. And for those of you who saw the DreamWorks animation Kung Fu Panda, it was also a line spoken by Master Uguay, the turtle, to his little friend who was a red panda. I think he was voiced by Dustin Hoffman. So it was even in that film. So that phrase has certainly stood the test of time. So why have I said that? Because, you know, I've had a beard most of my adult life. And after it turned white, almost like clockwork, starting the day after Thanksgiving until the day after Christmas, I could count on at least one person, if not 2 or 3, shouting out from a passing car, a van, or an apartment window, "Hey, Santa!" Now, I'm not dressed as Santa. Okay, no, I'm just wearing everyday clothes. And they thought they were funny. And I would go, I don't do Santa. Bah, humbug. I really did say that. Now, all this really does start about 5 years ago when I was working at the Museum of Broadcast Communications. And it was a quiet Sunday. I was on the floor that day, so I was greeting guests and doing impromptu tours and giving information. So I was pretty much the face of the museum that day. And quiet Sunday afternoon, 2 people come up the elevator to the exhibition floor. It was a husband and wife, and I showed them around because I had the time, and I spent quite a bit of time with them. And when it was over, the man comes up to me and says, "Cliff," he said, "we had such a nice time here. I don't know if you'd be interested, but I am the CEO for Chicago Santas Incorporated." Now, that company is the oldest professional Santa organization in the city. They've been around, including this last season, 51 years. He says, "I just lost a Santa." And he says, "I need to replace him. And since you live on the north side, every Santa has a territory to do, They're kind of like the gangs of Chicago in the 1920s. You know, everybody's got a territory. Now, I've never wanted to play Santa, and when he offered that to me, part of me wanted to cut and run screaming. The other side, though, was kind of intrigued, and I says, well, Keith, what does it entail? Because I had one foot in the door ready to go. And he goes, well, you'd have the north side and part of downtown, but I specifically need a Santa for Wrigley Field and Lincoln Park Zoo. And I went, Wrigley Field? Lincoln Park Zoo? Really? He goes, yeah, I'm in. So I accepted, all right, but still with a little trepidation. And a little later that year, we had the big Santa meeting out at, can you believe this, Santa's Village? And there were 16 of us there. We looked like an outtake from The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, like all the dwarves around a table, you know, all the beards. And I got my outfit, and I got all my stuff, and I took it home. But still, I wasn't sure why I accepted this. Now, I'm going to get back to that story in a moment. But first off, a few historical notes on Santa Claus himself. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but he's actually based on a living person, a real person, right? And this guy, well, he was not a Shin Buddhist. He was a Greek Christian bishop from Turkey, and his name was Nicholas, who lived in the 4th century A.D. and was later canonized as a saint, Saint Nick. And he became the patron saint of children, the poor, prostitutes. Yeah, he did. He had a wide net. And his popularity was brought to the New World in the 17th century by Dutch immigrants. Now, it is said he would travel about the countryside, especially during the winter solstice, bringing food and gifts to those in need, and especially to children. He reminds me a bit of the late 9th, early 10th century wandering Chinese monk, Hotai, who became one of the 7 lucky gods of Japan. And the name Hotai means cloth sack, which he is almost always depicted carrying. And it's said that this happy, mirthful monk with a large belly traveled about the country handing out gifts and treasures from this magical bag, which never emptied, and he was almost always accompanied by children. Now, our current image of Santa, with his red suit and sleigh pulled by reindeer, is directly inspired by the classic 19th century poem, A Visit by St. Nick, or it's more commonly known today as The Night Before Christmas. And it was written by Clement Clarke Moore in 1822. And a little extra I want to add to today's talk, which I couldn't do the last time I did it, because I just found this out a few weeks ago. I was appearing as Santa at the old Montgomery Ward Fulfillment Center building along the North Branch of the Chicago River. Right now it's a corporate center, I think a company called JLL. And they were having a big corporate holiday party there. So about 700 employees show up, and I'm there. And it's got a big Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer theme. So that's cool, that's great. But it was all over the place. And I asked my contact, how come Rudolph? I didn't know this. This is just a little aside to my talk here. Well, if anybody here is from Chicago or nearby, guess what? They have a Rudolph event there because Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was actually born, or I should say created, at the Montgomery Ward Center in 1939. And it was a book, a giveaway book for those who bought things at Montgomery Ward's there, and it was given away to them, okay? In fact, the fellow's name was Robert May. He wrote that story. And 10 years later, if any of you play Trivia Pursuit, this is like a good thing to keep in the back of your pocket. 10 years later, his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, wrote the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it was first recorded by, some of you will know this name, Gene Autry. And it became part of holiday legend. That's where it all comes from. So guys, yes, be proud of it. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a Chicagoan. Just keep that in mind. Now, back to our main story. The Santa suit sat around for about 10 days and unseen before I decided to try it on. It was a quiet, late Sunday afternoon, and I thought, well, now is about as good a time as any. Let's see what I've gotten myself into. And I pulled the outfit out, the hat, the boots, the gloves, and the stuffer. By the way, yes, I was wearing this thing underneath. Okay, I would have been kept warm in Antarctica. Okay, we've got that on. And we take it out of the box, we put it on, and I walked over to the everyday mirror in my washroom to take a look, and that's when it hit me. I realized at that moment what I was asked to represent. Staring back at me was not some commercial image that gets propped up everywhere during the holiday season, or that I myself would, in my younger years, sometimes derisively call, do forgive me, the god of commerce. But I was something else entirely. What I saw was an image that represented unconditional love, compassion, understanding, and joy. And I realized right there it was not about me, but what I could give. And I asked myself the question, do I have the resolve and the courage to do this? I would meet thousands of people over a 4-week period in December, and it was my responsibility to offer them joy, hope, courage, comfort, and confidence. It was my hope that they would take all or some of those gifts with them. And I would constantly ask myself, while holding court as Santa at Wrigley Field or Lincoln Park Zoo or even a private party, what would Buddha do? And every individual, every family, every group had different needs and different requests. Some didn't even speak English, but they still wanted to visit with Santa. And it was up to me to do the best, to the best of my ability, to make sure everyone left with a happy and hopeful heart. I mean, Wrigley Field even has 3 dog days with Santa. Yes, you can bring your dog to talk to Santa. And you could, any pet at all, actually. As a matter of fact, 3 parrots showed up and 1 rather traumatized cat. But that's a whole nother story. And they would take photos with Santa. And the dogs are great. I have to say, all the canines I met seemed very thrilled to be there. Whether it was meeting Santa or the treats they got before they got to the chair, I don't know, but all went well. And requests were of all kinds. And for many children, I would be asked for a specific toy, like a plushie, a model train, a bicycle. But often enough, they would want the latest iPhone or Xbox. And I would make eye contact with mom or dad, rather subtle actually, to see if their child's request would be possible. And if their faces nodded in the affirmative, just a little nod is all I needed, I would often make a magic phone call up to the North Pole to see if we had any in stock. It was much the delight of my young visitors. And it went something like this. I have to share, actually, so an example. So I'd go, all right. I said, let me call up north. And I said, you won't be able to see the phone, because it's a magical phone. But here we go. And I would pull this phone out from my coat. There we go. Oh, please forgive me, it's an old phone. It has an antenna. And I'd push it and do the buttons, bing. It's ringing. Coco. Yes, Coco. He's my head production elf. Coco, listen, I have a young visitor here by the name of Natalie, and she's wondering, do we have any Hegel the Hedgehogs up in stock? Yes, Hegel. I think it's main storeroom. Look over in section C, shelf 28 or 29. Yes, a purple or green one if you have it. He's looking. Oh, you do? Oh, wonderful. Do put one in the sled for the 3:15 run to Chicago that evening, and put the name Natalie on it. Yes, I think it's Division Street. No, not the one on Wentworth. She's getting cold. A Division. Yes, there we go. No, that's wonderful. Thank you. I know you're busy. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll make sure it's on that sleigh. And I would hang up, put the phone away, much to the delight of the young person, and sometimes the adult that would be there as well. Now, however, not all requests were for physical things, and not all visitors were children. And there were young adults in their teens, individuals, couples, and groups of friends in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and beyond. And many said the greatest gift they could ask for would be peace in the world. And I had more than one group of teenage girls come up to visit during that magic month who, when asked what they wanted most for Christmas, they would shout out, almost in perfect harmony, "Boyfriends!" Be careful what you wish for. You may have the misfortune of overtaking it. But that's an old phrase. But at any rate, there were other requests too. Things like, my grandmother is sick and the doctors can't help her. Can you do anything, Santa? Or possibly, I want my mom and dad to stop fighting. That would be the best gift ever. Now, for these intangibles, Santa had to have an answer. So Santa once again asked himself, what would Buddha do? And the answer came to me that even though I might not be able to change the physical situation someone is experiencing, I did have the ability to instill hope, understanding, courage, love, and the effects of positive action. So to do that, I removed a band of reindeer bells I had on my left wrist underneath a big fluffy sleeve, and I would jingle them softly, and they would jingle softly for additional ambience as Santa went about his business. And I would explain to my guests what they were, that they were real bona fide reindeer bells, and that these particular bells belonged to Donner, which they actually do. I think they were actually borrowed from a real live reindeer named Donner. And he was one of the 8 reindeer on the sleigh, or 9 if you count Rudolph. Again, he joined in 1939. But he's the one closest to the sleigh on the left. And Donner and Blitzen, they're the strongest of the reindeer. They give that extra push when the sleigh is taking off. So the strength of those reindeer is in this bell. And I would take those bells and I would ring them over that individual's head, saying that they would give them the luck and the strength of the reindeer to endure whatever they had to do. And that little bit was enough encouragement to help them, I hope, get through whatever unpleasant situation they were going through. And I would tell them, all you need to do now is listen to your heart, and that will set you on the right road. Again, I would ring the bells over their heads, and it seemed they would leave with a renewed sense of hope, empowerment, and if need be, acceptance. Now, one other story I would like to share here with a similar theme occurred one evening at Lincoln Park Zoo's Festival Lights. I was visited by a young lady named Cheryl, about 9 years old. And I greeted her and thanked her for coming to see me. She seemed very happy to be there. But the first words out of her mouth were, "I'm sorry, Santa." And I said, "Sorry? Sorry for what?" "Well, I've never written to you before for anything, and I know I probably should, but I'm not very good at writing. So I hope that doesn't make you mad." And I looked at her and said, "Of course not. How could I ever be mad at you? Don't you worry about a thing at all. I am so happy to make your acquaintance today, and I'm very glad that you've come." And the relief on her face was dramatic. The sun came out, and then I said, "Besides, you don't have to sit down and send me a letter with pen and paper. You can send me one from your heart." And she looked up and said, "I can?" I said, "Of course. All you have to do is sit quietly, think about what you want to say, and send those thoughts to me, and I promise you I'll get them. I may not have a chance to answer, but your good thoughts will always find their way to the North Pole. And besides, it is faster than normal post." Truly. And her joy was explosive. She said, "Thank you, Santa. Thank you. I love you." And she gave me a hug. I hugged her back. And her mom came to pick her up, and she went on her way. Now, she turned her back one more time to wave and smile, and happiness went with her. And I had to take a moment to brush a couple of tears away. Now, even after hours, Santa had a remarkable effect. I'm coming home. It's 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I'm walking to my apartment in Santa gear, and it was just amazing. People would slam on their brakes, jump out of the car to take selfies and photos, or to video this thing. There was one time they were so excited they jumped out and they forgot to put it in park. Okay, so the thing is, there's a lot of power in that outfit, and of course I would definitely, take whatever pictures and what have you. And just one other one that happened just not 10 days ago. I was leaving for work. I was in Rosemont, Illinois. that day, and I was going out to Impact Field. Now, I'm going to profess ignorance here. I did not know until I got my schedule this year that we have a professional minor league baseball team in Chicago. I don't know. How many of you knew that? How many didn't know it? Okay, I didn't know it. And they're out in Rosemont. They have a professional stadium, 6,000 seats, and they're called, are you ready? The Chicago Dogs. Not named after the doggies. They're named after the Chicago-style hot dog. Okay, and their logo is a Chicago-style hot dog with the 4 stars of the Chicago flag pasted across it. So I was heading out there, but I was just going to my car. It was about a block away, and up the other end of the block, there's a young woman walking toward me, and I see her going like this. And she comes running down the street with her phone out, videoing it, and she's calling, "Santa, Santa, Santa." And she runs up to me, and she says, "I can't believe it's you. My whole life, I've been wanting to meet Santa, and now you're really here." And she was just amazing. She was going to work at the Jewel a few blocks away. She took some videos, she took some pictures. She says, this is the wish of my life, Santa. And I was not some guy in a Santa suit. I really was Santa Claus for this woman, and I was not going to break that. And when she walked away, she walked away crying, calling friends, going, "I just met Santa Claus." Well, if you can give that kind of a lifelong memory or those feelings of cheer and unbridled joy, let's do it. We can all do it. So anyway, all kinds of things happened after work. Now, it dawned on me at some point toward the end of last year that the crowds that gathered to visit with Santa could be considered a Sangha, if Sangha is defined as the word community. And there were people of all walks of life, cultures, identities, spiritual traditions, very much like the Sangha here at MBT. And many here were born into this tradition. Others, like myself, arrived traveling other pathways. But we all came seeking something meaningful that we could also share with the world. And I would like to, if I may, reference an article by our very own Jesse Zavala. There, Jesse, there you are. Alrighty. And this was in the February Midwest Temple Bulletin about a year and a half ago. And he crafted a wonderful, thoughtful offering entitled A Shin Buddhist Christmas Story. And this is a short excerpt from Jesse's writing. And that is simply, he writes, "We do have a Buddhist Santa Claus. It's the primal vow. The primal vow gives us the 3 treasures, the 3 Buddhist gifts. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are the gifts of enlightenment." And he goes on to write, "The Buddha taught the meaning and function of gifts and gift-giving, especially gifts for children, and how true that is." And thank you again for that, Jesse. Now that brings me to Reverend Kenryu Tsuji, the first North American to serve as bishop of the Buddhist Churches of America, who in his narrative, which he wrote, entitled "Listen," he states, "The Dharma speaks to us through the sounds of the world. And I can only think that must include that most familiar sound, ho, 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 ho. Because encapsulated in that laughter and echoing the Dharma is kindness, compassion, empathy, understanding, and unlimited love." The Dharma is everywhere, in everything that we do. We just have to see it and feel it and manifest it in our daily lives, even if it is wearing a red suit. And that cloth sack full of gifts, we each have our own, never-ending, never empty, full of compassion, love, understanding, patience, and forgiveness that we can reach into every day for the benefit of all living beings. And in conclusion, I have those reindeer bells with me today. And if you would all please put your hands together in Gasho, I would like to conclude with the final lines from Clement Clark Moore's immortal poem, yes, The Night Before Christmas, with a slight change. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Dharma to all, and to all a good night." So thank you all, Sangha here and online. And by the way, I think I speak for all of us, and all of us sending our best wishes to Reverend Ron. I know you're out there, and recovering well from his surgery. So Reverend Ron, we're all waiting for you to come back, and we send our best thoughts to you as well as the new year dawns. Thank you everyone, and Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you. Yeah.